I'm deeply honored that my remarkable colleagues on this side of the aisle decided to rehire me for another term as Republican leader. I'm proud of Senators Thune, Barrasso, Ernst, Capito, and Daines, who were also elected to take on critical roles for the next 2 years. We have impressive new senators-elect. We have outstanding returning members. Our conference is brimming with energy, ideas, and enthusiasm to fight for the millions and millions of Americans who elected Republican senators to be their champions and their voice in this chamber. Republicans are a big tent party that unites around common sense conservative principles and policies to make our nation stronger and make American families' lives better. We stand for fiscal sanity instead of reckless liberal spending that created jaw-dropping inflation. We stand for the pro-worker, pro-family, pro-growth ideas that built the best economy for working people in a generation before COVID-19. Republican policies have fueled low inflation, low unemployment, and robust growth, all at the very same time. We stand for a strong, modern military that can deter and defeat America's enemies, and competent American leadership in the world instead of this administration's deeply botched retreat from Afghanistan and desperate cozying up to the murderous regime in Tehran. We stand for American energy dominance instead of cutting off our own supplies and canceling out our own pipelines while begging foreign dictators to produce more. We stand for real energy independence, not making China rich by buying solar panel components that make American energy more expensive and less reliable. We stand for safer streets, and we understand that real compassion means ensuring safety and security for innocent people, not giving shorter sentences to the violent convicts who hurt them. We stand for securing our border and enforcing our laws instead of letting unvetted people and illegal drugs pour into our country 24/7. We stand for putting parents' rights and parents' involvement back into our nation's schools and getting radical indoctrination out. We stand for the quaint notion that judges need to follow our laws and the Constitution as they're written, not act like third legislative branch that our citizens can't vote out. We stand for free speech, religious liberty, and the freedom of worship instead of using the courts and the government to prosecute men and women of faith. This is where we stand, Madam President, and it just so happens the American people stand with us. Last week's exit polls show that Republicans are more trusted on kitchen table issues that keep American families awake at night. When the American people got a clear, unmuddled look at our common sense conservative approach to the issues, they liked what they saw. We've got 49 outstanding members on this side of the aisle who are living proof of that fact, and in just a few more weeks, we'll have 50. It's the honor of a lifetime to serve alongside my distinguished colleagues and to serve our conference in this leadership role. Now, on a related matter, yesterday evening brought confirmation of some great news for the future of our country. Republicans have secured the majority of the House of Representatives for the next 2 years. It will be Senate Republicans' great pleasure to partner closely with and serve alongside the new Republican House. I want to congratulate the soon-to-be Speaker McCarthy and all of the new and returning members of Congress across the Capitol, whose elections will be transforming the People's House from a reckless rubber stamp into a sorely needed check and balance. The composition of the new House demonstrates that fatigue and exhaustion with reckless and radical far-left policies is not just limited to so-called red or purple states. New Republican congressmen and women have been hired by their neighbors, even in deep blue states like New York and California. Even further evidence that when the American people get an unmuddled look at our common sense conservative vision on the issues, they like what they see. So I look forward to working with our House Republican colleagues, new and returning, in the years to come. Now, on a related matter, the Capitol may be preparing for the next Congress, but hardworking Americans are still being hurt every day by the reckless, radical party line spending that Democrats rammed through during this Congress. Since President Biden took office and his all-Democratic government fired up the printing presses, our nation has been hit with 13.9% inflation. In the state of Georgia, inflation's even worse. It's closer to 15% since January of 2021. Families are having to pay hundreds of dollars extra every month just to maintain their standard of living from before the Democrats got power, let alone trying to get ahead. The many Georgia families who can't afford it are falling farther and farther behind. Housing inflation alone is costing the average Georgia household an extra $137 every month. Overall energy costs are up more than 9% in the Atlanta area just in the last 12 months alone. As we head into winter, nearly 4 in 10 households in Georgia use natural gas as their main heating fuel. Residential natural gas prices have skyrocketed more than 200% on President Biden's watch. The state's natural gas prices are way, way higher than the national average. And that's before you even get to the brand new natural gas tax that both of Georgia's senators voted to pass into law just a few months ago. The Democrats have passed radical policy on top of radical policy, and it's brought hardworking Americans like the people of Georgia pain on top of pain. But Washington Democrats still aren't finished. A month ago, the Biden administration decided to insult working Americans by unleashing yet another reckless giveaway that would actually transfer even more wealth toward highly educated people who already tend to be more well off. As one study found, upper-income households account for a disproportionate share of the student loan debt. That makes sense. They borrowed money to obtain a credential that tends to push up people's salaries in the future. But President Biden decided that working people who worked their way through college or who already paid off the debt or planned entirely different careers to avoid student loans altogether, President Biden says all those people will now be picking up the tab for doctors and lawyers' graduate studies. Oh, and by the way, our colleague from West Virginia, Senator Manchin, has himself admitted this one reckless move would more than eclipse the supposed deficit reduction that Democrats claimed with their so-called Inflation Reduction Act. Even according to the generous estimates of that bill's savings that Democrats actually liked, this student loan socialism cannibalizes it all. All the supposed savings that the senior senator from West Virginia was promised are gone in the blink of an eye. Apparently, the White House was planning the bait and switch all along. Now, not surprisingly, President Biden's attempt to circumvent Congress and implement student loan socialism on his own has created some legal trouble. After all, it was Speaker Pelosi herself who admitted just months before the administration rolled out this plan that they actually lacked the proper legal authority to do what they did. Earlier this week, a panel of the Eighth Circuit issued an injunction preventing the Biden administration from going forward with its plan. But reportedly, President Biden's team are so desperate to make inflation even worse in this fashion, they're planning to extend student loan socialism anyway by extending the endless moratorium on payments. Washington Democrats' top priority is making sure that California doctors and Manhattan lawyers don't have to pay their debts, even if it causes even more inflation, while working people in Georgia keep getting burned.